I think that one day, yes, we will see that, once we create an AI that is smarter than us, or once we invent an AI that is smarter than us, that will be the last invention we ever make, right? But again,
So
right now,
are you a fan of Terminator and Skynet?
Sure.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the SiGMA podcast. Today we're going remote. We're going remote because we're going to Slovakia. We're going to be meeting Mark Flores Martin. He's Maltese, but he's not a huge fan of the heat of summer. So right now he's enjoying the fresher air in Slovakia. I don't know if he's in Bratislava or in another area of Slovakia, but he's in Bratislava. Mark, thank you so much for agreeing to this podcast, for accepting our invite. I know you work for Xgenia. What is Xgenia? What do you do there exactly?
First of all, Trevor, thank you for taking the time to meet with me and for having me here. I appreciate it. So Xgenia is an AI company, right? We place ourselves as an AI company, creating AI tools for the gambling industry.
Okay.
The first tool that we have released to market that has been taken up quite well is an AI slots generation tool, which basically allows you to create slot machines and slot machine art and the sounds, the music, and everything that you would require to launch a slot machine in under 10 minutes, just by describing the theme that you want, style. Even you can upload style images, so you can sort of get really if you want to have a Rick and Morty feel to your game, you could upload a Rick and Morty. If you're into that, that's what I'm into. So that's my favorite image to use. And you can generate games. And now I think we've surpassed generating over 11,000 games during the alpha phases. So customers have taken up quite nicely. And the next sort of rendition we have is we're releasing the maths expert. So it's another AI.
Yeah, that was actually gonna be my next question. Mathematics. Is mathematics?
It's everyone's next question.
Is mathematics part and parcel, Mark, of? But before we get into maths, let's stick to this first package. So your first package is through AI, you generate online slot games. So, few questions here. One, is there the capability to use the graphics, images you're generating, the sounds you're generating, to also use that in a land-based machine?
Yes, that's a great question. So we do have clients we're speaking to predominantly over in the US that are interested in taking up this technology to be the first step of building sort of hyper building these land-based machines to make them more exciting, having a bit of an AI touch inside of them. So yes, there is the ability to do so, and I think clients are quite interested. We're still in early phases with discussions with these clients, but they seem to be quite interested in having us on board. Really, at the end of the day, these brick and mortar slot machines, they run on the same technology, right?
Yeah.
So quite easy to implement.
Okay, good. Do you encounter any intellectual property issues?
No, since the training data is coming from internal resources for the most part, and we also make use of sort of open LLMs, which have, most of them have.
So open LLMs. I'm trying to remember my conversation with Sean over here. Did something machines, learning machines. What is LLM?
Large language models. They count for large language. They're the next phase from machine learning models, right? Mm-hmm. So they're the next sort of step up. This is basically ChatGPT it's right now. It's currently considered an LLM. In the future, obviously, it will be a more advanced, probably AGI.
So if I had to compare, and excuse my ignorance and excuse me possibly putting your product down. But to compare, your product is a sort of ChatGPT, but for slots.
In a way, so we have like a team. So when you sort of request a game, we have trained like individual team members, which are like they're considered to be agents, right? Is the technical word. When we had originally created them, there was no technical word for them, and these guys sort of kick into a chat, and they start discussing between themselves what they think your game should be. There is the creative artist, there's the chief, which sort of runs things and takes over the discussion and gives everyone the tasks, what they need to do to build this. And they go on discussing until they come up with the title, the story for the game, the audios, the music, and they sort of discuss this. So you can interact with them at any point in time, but they also can do things by
When you
themselves.
say you interact with them, you as the client or you as Xgenia?
Yes, as the chat is ongoing, you're seeing them chatting. So it's like ChatGPT. You make a request, and then he replies, and then you make another request.
Okay.
They're making requests
And
to each other.
according to the way the discussion evolves, the final product will be built.
Created. Exactly.
Okay.
Once they have decided on that, they
And
pass it
so
to the store.
on an intellectual property front, you've never had any issues?
No, because these images are generated. They're generated using custom data, and they're generated using this data. There's still ongoing question marks in the industry, in the AI industry, but the initial court cases have made it clear that these works of art are all derivative to each other. So they count as their own. In terms of copyright, you can use them and you can do what you want with them.
Understood. So you're not looking at, for example, current. Let's give an example, a genre. One of the most famous genres that there is in gaming, land-based and online, is the Egyptian theme. You know, with the also possible adventure figure being part of this. Do you have customers who ask for something similar, but then you need to be careful the line you tread in order to avoid IP issues over there?
So so that's actually come also from the owners of I guess you're talking about Bukovra, right? Would be what we're talking
11
about.
and a half years with Novomatic, my friend.
So
I spent 11 and a half years there. So I know it.
I
And
got that question.
you're in Slovakia, you're in their own backyard right now.
Yes, and that's great because they're just an hour away. Go for lunch and speak with them. It's quite nice.
So you work with the Novomatic group and with GreenTube?
We don't currently work, but possibly in the future, which we cannot really talk about, but possibly in the future.
It's a great company to work with.
Yes, they're super nice guys. I really enjoy speaking with them. So possibly, I mean, there's a possibility. But jumping back to your question on Bukovra, yes, obviously there's lots of renditions and people creating similar games to it. Trip to Egypt, Cowboy in Egypt, and all these different ones that are available online. So yes, there are people who are sort of want to create something similar, or they want to have some maths logic which is similar potentially. But obviously, you can prompt it to do anything. So you can prompt it to do similar, or you can, use the AIs as they're intended to create something new that there isn't on the market, and follow the concepts of what makes a game exciting. So the beauty of building with AI is not about trying to replicate something that works, but since the AIs are, learning consistently with what's better, what people love, to potentially surpass such games and give everyone the ability to create really exciting games just from a prompt, right? And each week, each month, we get stronger and stronger at that.
Okay. Do you encounter any testing issues? So do your games, do you go through the test lab process, or is it your clients themselves who go through the test lab process?
So the way we are shipping the product at the moment to studios is that it is a prototyping product.
Okay.
It builds the early game that then humans would take over to maybe polish, to maybe make perfect. Obviously, you can iterate with the AIs. I don't like this icon. These sound suck, whatever, and then you can sort of take it
Okay.
sort of forward. Forward and sort of build it. I'm not sure the level of language we can use on this podcast. Is it, is it more PG-13 or?
Well, let's
You know,
not go. Let's not go there. I think me and you need to have a beer first rather than a remote conversation, and then we'll decide. But I already know we're going to have a part 2, if not a part 3, because I have many questions I want to ask you. So your product would be more, you could be more akin to actually a game studio yourselves, supplying directly to the B2B licensees who are then selling themselves to operators, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we're not trying to compete with game studios, and that is not at all in our trajectory. We want to empower game studios, because at the end of the day, our AIs are being built in the fashion of not building, building more casual, basic games, which more on the prototyping level, than doing completely polished. Which, yes, obviously at some point in time that's where it will end up. But we don't want to sort of compete against the studios. We want them to use this technology to make something better out of it, because human ingenuity is still king, right? AIs cannot take that.
So you're looking to basically be partners with studios, not compete with studios.
Exactly. We're not looking to compete with them at all.
But how do studios react to a product like yours, which basically, to a certain extent, if you can produce a new game at the rate of 10 minutes, I mean, it sort of does hit studios eventually, or not? Do we have a case here of Mark of machine replacing man?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that. I think that one day, yes, we will see that. Once we create an AI that is smarter than us, or once we invent an AI that is smarter than us, that will be the last invention we ever make, right? But again,
so
right now,
are you a fan of Terminator and Skynet? Because I am. I'm a huge fan of that series of movies.
So when we're training AIs, and that's a heavy topic. It requires a lot more than one beer, for sure.
I'm actually thinking of putting you on a podcast with JJ Gatt to discuss AI, both of you together. You're familiar with JJ and his work?
I think I saw that you had a podcast with him.
With Sean. He's very much into AI, but he is into the AI from the customer support perspective. You're in the AI from a product perspective, which is brilliant, because we could have something really interesting. But I interrupted you, sorry. So, machines, can they replace us?
When you're using ChatGPT and when you're using these AI tools, there's something called guardrails around them, right? So they're made to have a whole load of security that is supposed to be unbreakable, although there are jailbreaks, right, for them, technically, to protect users from being able to parse data. Now, an AI in its raw format can seem a little bit scary, but we need to remember that AIs in today's world are algorithmic in fashion, in the sense that they have the ability to think in a way, but they're still algorithmic in fashion.
So they could be predictable.
Yeah, you could sort of. That's why we can control them. As we get to AGIs, and then the next, which is all the high.
AGI. What is AGI? Augmented.
Artificial general intelligence, which basically means it's on the same level of the ability to reason, think, and be creative as humans, which is, I think we're around maybe 2 years away from that. And then we have then the next level is super intelligence, where basically AI supersede human intelligence, right? So this is Skynet is where
Super.
Skynet comes in. Your Skynet is super intelligence, right?
Okay.
And that will be a bit a scary time, I think, for humanity because it depends who gets there first. We can have this conversation quite who gets there first, and who, like even by country, who gets there first and who controls it. Because the person that controls that, it's like that, that sword from the stone, gives almost ultimate power, right? From any point of view.
Okay.
So
Unfortunately, we have just a minute or two left. My last question. I know it's a bit heavy. Maybe we'll have to postpone to another podcast. But do you see the ability to marry skill in gaming with slots? There was a time when there was the talk about marrying the two together, but it didn't work out. Could AI break through over here?
Potentially, regulation doesn't allow it to happen, right? So in terms of regulation, it's impossible to do. But if you had to, for example, imagine you had, like, one of the things we recommend is, to use our AIs is, imagine you had a game where you a betting function would be convincing an AI to do something or let you in. Like, I'm not sure you're, like, let's say you have a door and you're convincing the AI, which requires some skill, and then the AIs could factor in randomness into that alongside the skill. But it's possible to do, but I think that regulation will be very difficult, because at the end of the day, with neural networks comes unpredictability at the moment, right? We haven't found a way to make them extremely predictable, which means that the outcomes are not measurable, just like a mathematics algorithm could be, right? So potentially in the future, we'll find a way to do that. And there is a way if regulators would be open to it, but they're definitely not at the moment. So I would say for the next 3 years, until regulators become more open about AI, I don't think we're going to see that happening anytime soon.
Okay. Mark, it really was a pleasure to host you today. Really enjoyed our discussion, and I intend to pick it up again in the near future, if you don't mind. Hopefully here in Malta, when the weather cools down a bit. But in the meantime, thank you so much for accepting to be a guest on our podcast. And I really enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I hope to take this up even further. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks for your time. It was lovely speaking with you.
And I remind our viewers to subscribe to the SiGMA podcast, to post notifications in order to be alerted as to when we have new content, which we are pushing out constantly over here. And I take this opportunity to thank the entire team here at SiGMA, and also yourselves, the viewers, who are making these podcasts such a success. Thank you so much.